My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best.
Download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6 Minute English
From bbclearningenglish.com. Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Alice.
And I'm Neil. Okay, Alice, I've got something for you here. Question?
Yeah.
You ready? Mm-hmm. What is the Mexican version of One Direction?
No idea.
Juan Direction.
Oh.
Get it?
Very good.
Juan Direction, you know?
Yes, I get it.
Never mind. Can you guess what the subject of today's show is instead?
Is it bad jokes?
Oh, come on, that was a good little gag. Yes, the subject of today's show is what makes us laugh. And in this context, to get something, for example, a gag or joke, means to understand it. We all like to laugh. Well, not you, Alice, apparently, but most of us do. It's good for our health. It reduces stress and releases feel-good hormones in the body.
Okay, thank you, Neil. But how about answering today's quiz question? Which Greek word means the study of laughter and its effects on the body? Is it A, rhisology, B, gelotology, or C, comology?
That's difficult. And I'm going to say C, comology, because it's got sort of the word comedy in it, you see?
Oh, very good. Okay, well, we'll find out later if you're right. Now, did you know we rarely laugh when we're on our own? Laughter is a social thing that we generally like to share with other people.
Really? I laugh when I'm watching cartoons on my own, don't you, Alice?
No, Neil, I don't. Anyway, some researchers believe that the purpose of laughter is related to the way we bond with each other. And the more we laugh, the more we bond as a group.
Interesting idea. It could explain why stand-up comedy, where a comedian performs in front of and talks directly to their audience, is very popular entertainment. But what does it take to keep your audience laughing? Let's listen to Steve Byrne, a successful US comedian, talking about this.
The one single thing an aspiring comedian should do is to write, and talk about the things that make them laugh. Selfish. It's time to be selfish. Time to be a little narcissistic. What is it that makes you laugh? Because that will get you closer to finding your voice. Because ultimately, that's why people will come see you.
So, comedians need to be selfish and narcissistic. That sounds pretty negative.
Yes, it does. Narcissistic means being too interested in yourself. For example, your appearance or other personal qualities. And aspiring means wanting to be successful in your chosen career.
And what does Steve mean when he says comedians need to find their voice?
Well, he means they need to talk about what they think in a way that's unique, meaning unusual or special to them.
Okay, let's listen to Steve again, talking about turning 40 and what he finds funny about that.
When you turn 40, you will hear this in your life, and hopefully you'll hear it the rest of your life. You look good for 40. You look good for 52. You look great for 63. You never hear that when you're young. You never hear, you look good for 19. You think there's going to be some secret potion or some magic shortcut to it all. It's writing and getting up on stage. It takes a lot of perseverance, and it's such a competitive occupation. You know, you just got to outwork everybody.
Well, we heard Steve making his audience laugh there, and, by the way, Alice, you look fantastic for 40.
That's not funny, Neil. I'm only 39 and you know it. Anyway, moving on. Steve says there's no magic potion or shortcut to success. You have to work hard. It doesn't happen by itself. And perseverance means to keep on trying to achieve something even when it's difficult.
He says you have to outwork everybody, which means to work harder than everybody else. Steve certainly doesn't make comedy sound much fun, does he?
No. In fact, some people say there's a connection between depression and comedy, that comedians can be introverted and depressive.
Is that right? Introverts are generally quiet people who are more interested in their own thoughts and feelings than in spending time with other people.
Yes, you'd think that most comedians would be extroverts, people who are lively and enjoy the company of others. Okay, I think it's time for the answer to our quiz question, Neil. I asked, which Greek word means the study of laughter and its effects on the body? Is it A, rhisology, B, gelotology, or C, comology?
Yes, I said C, cohomology, which I think I'm beginning to regret now.
Ah, yes, well, indeed. Sorry, I'm afraid that's the wrong answer. It's actually B, gelotology, which comes from the Greek word gelos, meaning laughter.
Okay, you can stop sniggering now, Alice, and just tell us today's words once again.
All right, then, here they are. Get something. For example, a joke. Gag. Stand-up comedy. Narcissistic. Aspiring. Unique. Perseverance. Outwork. Introverts. Extroverts.
Well, that just about brings us to the end of today's 6-Minute English.
See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
6-Minute English.
From the BBC.
This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6-Minute
I photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best. Flick to link, link to flick.
One first striking thing is that you will see more and more vehicles in the air. It doesn't make sense that we've built higher and higher buildings in order to create density, but that our transportation is still mostly flat, mostly horizontal. So you will see flying vehicles. Companies like Airbus today are working on flying urban taxis. You have more and more ventures working on drones that can transport people. You may have other layers, horizontal layers of transportation beside the roads. You may have suspended magnetic trains or pods that transport people. So I think that's one component. A second component is that you will have more driverless pods that people can use that move at a very fast pace in a very smart way, that communicate with each other, communicate with the infrastructure. So it will be mesmerizing, but it will be fast moving and definitely more fluidity in the system.
I mean, once driverless cars are real, these cars presumably will be networked, they'll be communicating with each other, there'll be no traffic, there'll be no accidents, there'll be no slowdowns. The car will know exactly where to go, where to park. I mean, won't that sort of fix the problem?
I think it will be a major solution to our problem. There are already studies that are being made around sharing platforms, so vehicles that are shared by multiple users, and we already can see that it has a very positive effect on the congestion level in cities, that one shared vehicle can replace 5 to 7 individual vehicles on the road. That's a big improvement, and the perspective of having these vehicles driverless will push those savings even further once we have these large driverless infrastructure built in and available. Just imagine a very familiar scene. You've been driving for 42 minutes. The two kids behind you are getting restless, and you're late. Do you see that slow car in front of you? Always comes when you're late, right? That driver is looking for parking. There is no parking spot available in the area, but how would he know? It is estimated that up to 30% of urban traffic is generated by drivers looking for parking. Do you see the 100 cars around you? 85 of them only have one passenger. Biology would never do this. Space inside our arteries is fully utilized. And the tiny space inside our red blood cells is not wasted either. In healthy conditions, more than 95% of their oxygen capacity is utilized. Red blood cells are not flowing in lanes. They never stop at red lights. In the first driverless cities, you will have no red lights and no lanes. And when all the cars are driverless and connected, everything is predictable and reaction time minimum. They can drive much faster and can take any rational initiative that can speed them up or the cars around them. So instead of rigid traffic rules, flow will be regulated by a mesh of dynamic and constantly self-improving algorithms. The result? A strange traffic that mixes the fast and smooth rigor of German autobahns and the creative vitality of the intersections of Mumbai. Traffic will be functionally exuberant. It will be liquid, like our blood. And by a strange paradox, the more robotized our traffic grid will be, the more organic and alive its movement will feel.
Do you think that in your lifetime, in my lifetime, do you think we'll be able to see these networks of connected driverless cars? I mean, do you think we'll be able to actually solve the transit problem in our cities?
So, I mean, today you can hop on a driverless car in Singapore and have a ride in Singapore. You have a city like Dubai that is committed to test autonomous pods to transport people and are sort of buses that are modular. So I definitely think that we're going to see that. The problem is big enough, the congestion problem is big enough and has such a high economic cost that I think the incentive will be pretty high for some very competitive cities to implement innovative solutions. So the combinations of intelligence, capital, and the magnitude of this problem just makes me convinced that we are definitely going to see in our lifetime driverless cities that are more fluid. I'm absolutely convinced of it.
Anis Kabaj lives in Atlanta. You can see his entire talk at TED.com. On the show today, ideas about the power of networks, how those connections, those pathways define the world around us.
Well, in my house, my doorbell is connected to my cell phone, which is connected to my laptop, which is connected to...
This is computer scientist Avi Rubin.
The thermostat, which is connected to the alarm system, and I can sit in my bathroom after I've taken a shower and before I've gotten dressed and pick up my phone and turn on the heat in my car, and then turn on the coffee maker and the toaster.
And we're all headed in this direction, right? I mean, our
Yes.
homes and our appliances, they're basically becoming extensions of us.
Yes, it's known as the Internet of Things. And all of these devices are not only connected to each other, but they're connected to pretty much every other device on the internet.
So I should probably mention here that Abi's area of expertise is computer security, which means he understands how all of this connectivity can also make us incredibly vulnerable. Is everything that we own that's connected to the internet, can all of that in theory be hacked?
I would say that that's a fair assumption.
That's totally crazy.
Yes.
If you had internet trouble this morning, you weren't alone. Hackers disrupted services.
Series of cyber attacks today against the internet.
You might remember this. It was a few months ago. Some of the biggest sites on the internet, like Amazon and Google, went down across large parts of the U.S.
The attacks began early this morning as websites from Twitter to Netflix.
And that disruption was caused by an attack that actually began inside the Internet of Things, inside the devices we use every day.
Unbeknownst to us, hackers out there were able to put malicious software on these devices by taking advantage of bugs in the software when these things were manufactured.
Basically, your everyday household things.
Experts say cheap generic devices are usually the most susceptible.
Like routers, security cameras, DVR.
And so some attacker sent a command to all these devices at the same time saying, attack.
The attacks focused on Dyn Inc., an internet switchboard for numerous major websites. The attacks continued throughout the day.
And so that attack was able to produce a situation where a lot of users were not able to communicate with some of the services that they rely on the most, like Twitter and Google and other sites. The service simply wasn't available.
Just not available.
And it's not in most people's threat model.
Yeah.
People don't say, well, I'll watch Netflix if it's available. They just say, I'm going to watch Netflix. You assume it's going to be there.
Okay, losing Netflix for a day or two, not the end of the world, right? But what Avi is worried about is that hackers can exploit our growing dependence on the Internet of Things to do some really serious damage. which he explained on the TED stage.
So let me talk about a couple of more interesting Internet of Things hacks. One of them is Samsung's new smart fridge, okay? Samsung realized that in order to know what's on your calendar, people don't want to have to pull out their phone or go look on their computer. They can just look on their fridge. And so they designed a smart fridge that you could log into with your Google credentials and see your calendar right there on your fridge. The only problem is the people that built that may not have had a lot of security training, and they don't validate the SSL certificates. For those of you that are not technical, trust me, that means bad stuff will happen. And what you can do is, if the certificates aren't validated, you can create a man-in-the-middle attack, which will allow somebody to get the person's Gmail email, all the history of all of their email, and to log into their Gmail account, basically, because they have a smart fridge. Now, we've all seen these fitness trackers that are all the rage. Everybody is tracking their steps, and their running, and their health, and their fitness. What I'm showing you here is a fitness tracker, one of the top models, that had a bug in the software, and it causes the sensors to sample way too much, and it injured this person. Another device that is in the health and fitness space that I purchased was this blood pressure monitor. You use your iPhone, and then you can see, say start, and you can see your progress, etc. So I put this thing on, and I activated it, and it started squeezing my arm. And it squeezed really, really hard. And I tend to be pretty claustrophobic, and I was starting to wonder if this thing was going to rip my arm off. I mean, it really, really, really hurt. So it didn't rip off my arm, fortunately, but I got a really scary reading. I was supposed to be dead in about 3 minutes based on my blood pressure reading when I did that. And there are even things like implantable devices, like defibrillators that go right into a person, and those have connectivity to devices that can control them. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? If somebody...
Flick to link and link to flick.